Hi, this is Andre Koen. I want to say thank you so much for joining us for everybody in. We just finished a session on whiteness. It just powerful. It was really powerful, and I don't think people were expecting it to be as dynamic as it was, right? So lots of folks, when we start talking about this idea of whiteness, are really looking for either there's two camps: people who are ready to be beat up about being white, right, or those folks who want to acquiesce and say, whatever those people say about us must be true, right? Because whatever. And that's not the conversation that we had. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Mary R. Ferguson, who really walked us through these concepts of whiteness in a way that actually encouraged white people to see themselves as a larger part of the human family. And a lot of times, I don't know about you, but a lot of times in those conversations that I've heard, it's about blame and shame and fault and guilt, and specifically around kind of white Protestant Christian males, right? And so in this conversation, she really was able to give us an on ramp, right? And in some cases, some might see it as an olive branch to really recognize kind of the human condition that we fall in ourselves, that we find ourselves in. And so I want to say thank you so much to Dr. Ferguson for helping us with that. And so there were a couple of questions that came up and a couple of ways of thinking that I think are important for us to spend a little bit of time here. And one of the questions was, what issues might we need to address as white people to help them examine themselves in uncomfortable ways? Like why is that important to recognize? And part of that, I think Dr. Ferguson did a really good job, is just to kind of understand the framework so that we can use the emotions that we feel around those things, either positive or negative, or maybe no emotions at all, to help us make better decisions. And then how do we respond to someone who gets defensive and says, you're trying to shove this down my throat, you're trying to make me do these things? And the way that she framed that around being goal focused and goal oriented and wanting to do things was really interesting. And really addressing this idea of, why are you trying to make me feel guilty? I didn't do these things, but recognizing that there are systems in place that kind of roll these things along. And if we don't challenge those, sometimes we can fall into the pitfalls of replicating those things. And then, how do I talk to Uncle Jack, who is raging against Blacks and other minorities? And I thought it was interesting that she came up with some simple tools that we can use to kind of have those difficult conversations. And so we'll go over to that slide next. But I do want to say thank you, Dr. Ferguson, again, for your compassion and your ability to help us think critically. And so, to answer all of those questions, she kind of laid this out as well, that we need to honor the past, recognize that the past has some relevance to the building the structures that we have today, and really questioning people around these good old days. Were they really as good as people remember? Right. So we get nostalgic about things, but if they were that good, why wouldn't we continue them? And then also recognizing the current reality, that it's important to recognize, if those things were so good, if things, the good old days were all of that, we would still be doing those things today. And what does today offer that is different? And then recognizing that we need to appeal to values and build bridges with people. And so I found those as very helpful tips. Hopefully you can use those. If you haven't been engaging in those conversations, or you haven't seen those videos, please go see those videos. I think you'll find that they're really powerful and really engaging. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much. Don't want to take much more of your time, but recognize that we'll continue to have these conversations as we move forward, because we're trying to be more effective. And we know that we all do better when we all do better. This is Andre Koen. I look forward to seeing who you become as we continue to include and make sure that everybody gets in. Thanks. Have a great day.